This is exercise 1. Every lesson has a couple days worth of exercises.
Okay.
And so we basically are doing a letter for 2 days. So in this, it's the letter B. So every letter that we cover, we have an animal that begins with that letter. This one we're talking about, obviously, it's the bald eagle. And so there's a read section that will be at the very beginning of each lesson. And then from there, it goes to the warm-up activity. And then on the next page, you will see there's the write activity. And so notice here, we have 3 steps. Some of them may only have 2 steps, and some of them may have more than 3. It just depends on which letter it is. But we wanted to go through, and we've this time given them a red line at the very top. So our top line is the red line. Our midline is the dashed line, and that's yellow. And our baseline is a green line. Now, when they have to go below the green line, like for those hanging letters, like a lowercase g and a lowercase j, there's I believe it's a little bitty blue faint line, just to give them kind of a guide as well. And so this takes them through very explicit instructions. Start at that red line, make a line straight down to the green line. Then it says go back up to the red line, curve around to the yellow line as you bump the straight line that you originally drew, and then bounce off of it as you curve around and bump the green line to connect back to the straight line that you drew. And so every time you do that, you should be making those movements and saying those things that you're doing, because that is going to help the student be able to get that systematic, explicit instruction on how to form these letters. And so we give them some practice for them to trace just as a guide. And then you'll notice we remove that. And it's a little gradual. You can see the top line is a little bit darker and then it's a little bit lighter. And then we want them to do 2 more on their own. And that's where that comes in, because a lot of things just have them simply tracing forever, and then they'll remove the tracing and like just copy it. And so we want to make sure that they know formation, because that's also important for the students to be able to become fluent in writing. And then the next page, we actually have them, it's called Find. So this is basically where they can, this says circle the capital B's in red. If they would prefer to use a highlighter or something like that, the parents can modify that. But basically they're looking through this text. The parents would be reading it or co-reading, depending on the student's age, and going through and finding those capital B's. And then we ask them, like, how many capital B's did you circle red? Circle that number. And then there's a lot of information also about being good stewards of our land and helping animals and conservation. And then the next page, that starts day 2, those find activities. And then we have another warm-up activity. So day 1 has read, warm-up, and write. And then day 2 has find, warm-up, and write. And so we're, again, going back through. And you'll notice this time we only have 1 line with those tracers on it. And the next 2, we don't have the tracing letters. But we still have, and some of these, like, there are some little poems in here that I just kind of like came up with. That's not one of them. That one's just a little blurb about like help me grow feathers. It's a warm up activity for them to do. But there are some, I tried to include some of that because I like poems, especially the rhyming part of it. It's just good phonemic awareness for children. So I like to include some of that as well.